An editorial column is featured today in the esteemed Financial Times publication. Pay attention. Opinion, yes, the opinion section, Financial Times view, but by the editorial board. So this is a very serious and significant piece of material that is brought to the forefront, you see, and penned by the chief editor. I'll just quote a few things so you understand the context of what's happening. Allowing law enforcement agencies to run its course is essential, but it won't be enough to contain the biggest political crisis of Zelensky's presidency. He urgently needs to transform his style of governance. While a government of national unity might prove too unworkable, Zelensky absolutely must involve more adept modernizers, forge alliances with constructive opposition parties, and cease portraying his opponents and the independent media as enemies of the state. For this to happen, he must cleanse his presidential office and dismiss all advisors associated with various abuses. The removal of Yermak, who enforces the power vertical and now serves as a lightning rod for public discontent, appears to be an inevitable development. Well, it largely persists in a similar manner, but this specific publication, this editorial board, undeniably sets the entire mood for this particular evening. Why is that? Because this very evening marks the large gathering of the servants with President Volodymyr Zelensky, which is set to take place today. And a certain hysteria has been escalating, not only today, but for a number of days now, all tied to what personnel decisions Volodymyr Zelensky might be contemplating or has already implemented at this very moment as we speak. There are truly two globally significant questions. What will become of Yermak, the head of the presidential office? And the second important question is, what will transpire with Volodymyr Zelensky's oversight concerning the majority in the Verkhovna Rada and consequently over the Ukrainian parliament? So, my answer to that is, regardless of how the situation with Andriy Yermak concludes or has already concluded, it truly represents a matter that holds more political significance than practical importance in the present day. The hysteria among opposition lawmakers, precisely those the Financial Times editorial board is writing about, like Zelensky, goes, I know this will sound absolutely wild at this moment, but you'll simply have to believe me and assist with its wider dissemination. The president has decided not to fire Yermak, he's keeping him and going. And then it says, and to go on the counterattack against everyone involved in Mindyč-gate. I seriously doubt that following such widespread publicity and thousands of hours of these Mindyč tapes being made public, anyone would dare to launch a counterattack. Frankly, my friends, that would be nothing short of suicide. Thus, it's crucial to understand that such a position exists, leveraging Mindyč-gate to launch a personalized campaign with the goal of removing Yermak from his current post. Furthermore, I struggle to comprehend. It genuinely gives the impression that Andriy Yermak functions as the prime minister as though he's a highly influential political persona, you understand. Listen, by virtue of his office and its responsibilities within a conventional framework, he's simply an administrative clerk. Well, obviously, our circumstances are distinct. Yet, the Verkhovna Rada, no matter how much it wishes, cannot, due to its inherent functions and such, exert influence over the removal of the head of the presidential office. There's simply no way it can. This is something that simply must be understood. The selection of the head of the presidential office is, after all, solely within the purview of the individual holding that position, which is the president of Ukraine himself. Neither you, nor the parliament, nor the government, indeed no one can influence this except for Volodymyr Zelensky. Therefore, to exaggerate its importance, exclaiming, oh, well, currently it genuinely seems a bit, if you're not familiar with the operational structure, then perhaps it misleads you. Now, friends, the other, more serious matter at hand is this particular story right here, which we need to consider. Mikita Poturayev, who just yesterday evening had already managed to give interviews after his statement, which effectively confirmed the breakdown of our monomajority in the Verkhovna Rada. In reality, it hadn't truly existed for some time, yet legally it continues to remain formally in place even today. This is a far more realistic, interesting, and promising approach, effectively addressing significantly more matters than simply engaging in discussions about Andriy Yermak. See what they write. Third point, coalition of national unity. Yes? Well, besides immunity, there should be full combat support, a coalition of national unity, a government of national stability. Therefore, we are effectively stating that a split is currently unfolding within the servants, and this rift among the servants is a serious story. They're already writing about the servants' split, not by hearsay. MP Honcharenko writes, servants plot Zelensky rebellion. That's clickbait. Okay, understood. But then the Verkhovna Rada dismissed, this was yesterday, several of Volodymyr Alexandrovich's friends. A rift brews between the president and his servants. The servants want to unite with the opposition against puppet Zelensky and are even blackmailing him. So what's the blackmail? Today, Honcharenko is also going wild on his telegram, saying that Arakhamia supposedly gave Zelensky an ultimatum as the faction head, stating he controls parliament for the presidential office. The servants technically still hold their de jure majority. And in return, Yermak resigns because the atmosphere around him isn't right or something. It's unclear if he's Alibaba, but no one wants to wait. So, a split. It's not a rebellion, but a clear split is definitely occurring. And this whole situation, once more. I'm returning to Poturayev, returning to this specific idea that a coalition of national stability is something that truly should have been implemented a long time ago. And that is precisely what this editorial column addresses, the possibility of averting a crisis, resisting external pressures, introducing innovative ideas, and similar objectives. All of this can be achieved, provided that a new coalition is permitted to be established. These should be the conditions, and this new coalition will form a new cabinet of ministers. And it's not just Poturayev, my friends. Venislavsky shares this view. I watched his broadcast on Radio Svoboda, and he similarly suggests, though with a slight nuance, that we ought to redirect this negative sentiment, specifically away from the government he articulates. But Venislavsky is in favor of Yermak's resignation, just like apparently Arakhamia is. But he supposedly doesn't want to change the government. Well, it won't work like that anymore. So, is Venislavsky a supporter of Zelensky? Yes, 100%. Is Arakhamia a supporter of Zelensky? I'm unsure. Poturayev? I'm truly unsure. Following these recent posts, it's quite evident that he's orchestrating this entire split. And now Bezula is exposing this split or conspiracy like this. She remarks, the cabinet's resignation, just like Venislavsky, she holds no significance. She was in the servants, but now she says European solidarity and Batkivshchina are pushing this. Yes, of course, this is an attempt, and not just by Ms. Mariana, not just European solidarity and Batkivshchina pushing it. The servants too, well, Poturayev is also pushing it, yes. I showed you. Yermak tries to keep his post through Verkhovna Rada deals. Oh, do you see how she managed to spin it? That this whole situation is an exchange of Yermak for a new cabinet of ministers. Keep Yermak, form a new cabinet, all due to Mindyč-gate, understand? If that hadn't occurred, nothing else would be happening. Firstly, the head of the president's office must resign. Then, the political landscape will shift significantly, allowing for many crucial steps to be planned, including those for the cabinet. Well, that's a particular stance. So, there's no requirement to change the cabinet of ministers, but it is indeed the most probable outcome that could occur with all this, right? So Yermak stays, the cabinet goes, and another faction's representative in the Verkhovna Rada, Anna Skorokhod. I'll remind you that she joined the parliament specifically in 2019 as a parliamentary deputy representing the Servant of the People party. Then she was expelled from the party, removed from the faction, and now she is part of the For the Future faction, correct? I'm not sure if she's in the party, but certainly the faction. And she says, friends, whether Zelensky decides to remove Yermak from his inner circle or not, that is entirely Volodymyr Zelensky's own personal business. However, Skoro believes this is purely a matter of political self-preservation. Therefore, it's a separate matter, and that's entirely up to Volodymyr Zelensky. However, concerning the government, Skoro considers it to be an almost fully settled issue. Furthermore, if this were to occur at the present moment, it would indicate that this specific government's term will be relatively short-lived. This will be a government, Skoro states, that both prepares for elections and signs a peace agreement. This government will go down in history for exactly that. And then this particular government will vanish. And following the elections, a brand new one will emerge. In, well, fundamentally, a newly formed country. Roughly. Friends, this is a very serious moment. And strangely enough, indeed, everything could truly be transformed this very week.